we're gonna cover 23 tips that I wish that I knew when I first started playing Free Fire. This video was made in collaboration with Full Frontage, who is much more experienced with the game than I am, so you can absolutely trust the tips in this video to help you win more matches. Click on the link below to check out his channel because he's pretty awesome. Tip number 1, leave aim precision on default, especially if you're a new player. This setting has to do with whether or not you will lock onto an enemy when you are actually firing your weapon. Precise on scope will give you full control when you are scoped in, so it will not automatically lock onto the middle of the body like in default will, and when you're hip firing or when you're not scoped in, it will auto lock onto the middle of the body that you're trying to shoot at. This makes it a bit easier to get headshots, but it does require a bit of skill to pull off. Full control does not auto lock on an enemy at all, and some pros do use full control, but most pros actually don't use it. But if you leave aim precision on default, it will auto lock your crosshairs onto an enemy whether you are scoped in or not. Now the goal is going to be to try to get some headshots, so you want a high enough sensitivity so that you can manually aim for headshots even after it automatically scopes in onto the enemy body, which is oftentimes going to be the difference between getting kills or getting killed. Tip number 2, get your sensitivity set right. Obviously you want to set the sensitivity to whatever best suits you, but I highly recommend going with these settings, especially if you're not used to anything yet, since they're probably the most popular among the pros. Now this high sensitivity is gonna feel a little bit intimidating when you very first start out, but once you get used to it, it combined with a default aim precision is going to allow you to quickly move your crosshairs up to the enemies up close to get those really clean headshots. Tip number 3 is to find the button layout that you're most comfortable with. This might take a little bit of tweaking to figure out exactly what you want. However, I do have some really good tips. If you're on a tablet, probably the best solution is to go something exactly like this, where you have utility, aim, and movement on the left, and then you have fire, jump, and crouch, and guns, and the character abilities over onto the right. If you're playing on a phone, you want to do the same thing, but it's probably a good idea for you to have the aim on the right instead of the left, so you have more space to aim a bit more freely. This is one of the most important things for you to focus on when you very first start playing, because it's literally going to shape how you play Free Fire. Tip number 4, I highly recommend trying to play claw style. This is a little bit hardcore, but basically the idea behind claw style is rather than playing like this, you know, where you've got your 2 thumbs and, you know, you're just playing or whatever, you play like this, and I'll be honest, I'm not very great at it on a mobile phone, but there is nothing like playing on a tablet sitting on your desk and doing claw style. In fact, you can even hold it like this. From personal experience, this does feel very awkward when you very first start out. However, once you get it figured out, it's so much better. I mean, you're gonna win more, okay? 4 fingers is just straight up better than 2. Tip number 5, set your grenade slot to double. This is going to allow you to have your glue walls as a separate button on your display, which is really important in fights, and we're gonna talk about exactly why in a later tip. Tip number 6 is to play practice mode. Honestly, there's no shame into just jumping into games right away. Obviously, that's like the most fun way to play the game, but if you really want to optimize your playtime, I highly recommend using practice mode to get comfortable with all of the settings that we just talked about. Everything I've recommended is really solid for most players, but you'll still want to take some time to figure out exactly what works best for your hands and your device. If you can find something even better than what I suggested for you, that's great, but it's a lot easier to figure out in practice mode rather than in the heat of battle. Tip number 7 is to practice those headshots. This is super important for you to know exactly how much you need to flick your shots, and by flicking your shots, I mean exactly how much you need to drag your finger up to aim to hit enemies' heads once you've actually locked onto the target's main body with that auto-locking feature. Finding the perfect motion to lock on for headshots will take a lot of time for most people, but it will set you up for consistent wins. Tip number 8, if you have a higher end device, download Free Fire Max. Free Fire Max is pretty much exactly like Free Fire, but the graphics is ramped up and it will make the gameplay feel a lot smoother on better devices. There's no difference between the apps outside of graphical performance, and you can swap your account back and forth between the 2 of them very easily, but it also comes with some additional improvements other than just the graphical stuff, like a lobby customization and Craftland, which I'm going to cover that in a whole other video because it's awesome, but I'm just a huge fan of how Free Fire Max actually looks out, and you can download the standard version or Free Fire Max by using my link in the description below. Tip number 9, there are 3 different ranked modes that you can play in. Battle Royale is a 48-player free-for-all for either solos, duos, or 4-man squads. If you're not familiar with Battle Royales, pretty much you drop onto a map, you collect a bunch of randomly generated loot, and be the last person or team standing, and if you are, you get a booyah. And yes, in Free Fire, they're not called victories. No. They're called booyahs, and yes, I love it. Clash Squad is a 4v4 where you actually get to buy better gear each round depending on how well you did in previous rounds. Kills get you extra cash, cash, and so do win streaks, but you should never give up because you actually get bonus cash for losing streaks as well. Then finally we have Lone Wolf, which is the newest game mode, and it's a 1v1 match between you and another player. And the first person that gets 5 kills wins. Tip number 10, Lone Wolf can actually be a great way to practice your 1v1 fights in close quarters. Like I said, this is the newest mode in Free Fire, and it is a great mode, especially to get familiar with the various guns in the game. Every 2 rounds, you and your opponent switches who actually gets to choose the weapons you use. And since you both get to use the same guns, it's a good excuse to mess around with things that you don't normally try out. Once again, the first of 5 round wins gets that booyah. Tip number 11 is all about characters and pets, and they actually have different abilities that you can level up all the way up to level 7. You'll be able to upgrade pets with pet food, which you can actually get from the pass, completing activity missions, and from luck Royale, and you can get some characters with gold, but most are available for diamonds. Sometimes there will also be official events where you can get characters for free or codes during events that Free Fire will actually give out. You can also get a lot of really awesome skins like this Assassin's Creed outfit that I recently got. This event's actually going on right now, you gotta check it out. Characters have individual memory fragments that you can get as rewards, and that allows you to actually like upgrade them. And there are a lot of different ways to get these fragments just from playing the game, but you'll also get universal fragments from events which you can use on any character to get their memory fragments. It's a really good idea for you to focus on unlocking as many characters as you possibly can, because you actually get passive abilities based on the other characters that you've unlocked, even if you're not currently playing them. So focus on upgrading one pet at first, and then try to unlock as many characters as you can before you really start focusing on leveling them up. Tip number 12 is to make sure you maximize the usage of your character's active ability if you have an active ability for them. Every character has abilities, and some are passive, meaning that you don't have to worry about them, they'll just automatically be applied, and then some of them are actually active, meaning that you have to activate them in battle. Passive abilities can be very useful in squad matches, while active abilities tend to be a little bit more useful when you're playing solo. But just because you're playing solo doesn't mean that you should overlook these kinds of passive abilities, especially if one works really well with your playstyle. Tip number 13 is glue walls are your friend. In fact, they are super important in pretty much every single game mode. They're a great way to take temporary coverage to help you get into a better position, but they are not permanent and they can be destroyed. They also don't stop grenades from being thrown over the top of them, so camping behind them for a long period of time isn't so great either. With that said though, the outcome of a match can absolutely come down to how well you use your glue walls. Tip number 14 is to make sure you use the loot that you actually find. Most of the guns in the game are actually pretty balanced so long as you know what you do with them, so it's a really good idea to never pass up loot. If you find a pistol and a shotgun, get them rather than just leaving them behind and being unarmed. Even though Free Fire has some really fun melee weapons, even the worst gun in the game can be great if you can get a headshot with it. Tip number 15, avoid looting out in the open if you can. This is pretty obvious, but you'd actually be really surprised to see how many people still do this. Even if you think it's safe, you never know if a sniper has eyes on you, so it's a really good idea to use a glue wall if you have one. Tip 16 is to utilize vending machines, which are gonna add a lot of survivability to you. Throughout a battle royale match, you'll actually find coins around the map. You want to get them, and then you want to locate the nearest shopping cart on your map. That'll help you get armor, helmets, glue walls, grenades, UAVs. All of these things are really great for you to use on your with your coins, and if you're really struggling with ammo, you can even restock there. Tip 17 is to not forget to use your mini map. The map indicates which direction gunshots are coming from, so it's really easy to forget the map because it's just like a tiny little square in the corner of your screen, but it actually indicates the direction of gunshots and where they are coming from. So by paying attention to it, you can either avoid enemy fire or try and engage in enemy fire. Tip number 18, if you have a gas mask, you can actually fight in early shrink zones. Gas masks are a little boost in health that heal really quickly. Early zones in the game don't actually do very much damage at all, so you can actually camp near the edge if you know that somebody will be coming in behind you. Tip number 19 is to play with sound on, and if you have some earbuds or some headphones, I highly recommend using them as well. Even though there is an indicator on the minimap, having sound is very helpful in knowing exactly which direction the fire is actually coming from. You'll be able to hear cars, airships, gunships, footsteps, and a lot more to give you an advantage. Free Fire does do a really good job at making it so that you can play without sounds, but the sounds just make the game not only more enjoyable, but will give you a better advantage. Tip 20 is to complete all of your missions, and that's going to give you a big progression boost on the free side of the pass for a lot of rewards. It's going to help you unlock unlock characters, level up those characters, level up pets, and get some really cool skins for a limited time. Plus, there's plenty of things to do in Free Fire, and it's all fun, so make sure you're at least playing the way so that you can get rewards for playing it. Tip 21 is to participate in all of the special events. Special events will give you at least one of the special items if you're able to complete everything. Skins don't actually matter competitively, but they look really cool, but the characters actually do, and like I said, you're going to want to get as many of them as possible. Tip 22 is to get the Evo Guns if you can. Most of the time, getting progress on Evo Guns will cost some sort of money, but Evo Guns are like permanent modifiers to your weapons, and they come with some really cool effects. If you are willing to spend some money on the game, this should be the priority for you. And if you want to spend a little bit more money, the best way to spend outside of Evo Guns are on the Elite Pass and Topups. The Elite Pass is pretty self-explanatory, but there are tons of rewards for over 200 tiers on the pass for you to complete. Top-ups are also a really good thing for you to pay attention to as they get updated. Essentially, you top up on your diamonds and you can get extra rewards like a free character or skins. This will always result in a better bang for your buck instead of just buying diamonds straight from the shop. And those are 23 tips that I wish that I knew when I started playing Free Fire. Once again, I wanted to give a huge thank you to Full Frontage for helping come up with these tips and helping me become a better player. Seriously, he's awesome. Check the link in the description below to go check out his YouTube channel. And also a big thank you to Free Fire on this new exciting partnership for this channel. Don't forget to subscribe for more content, and I don't have any more videos on this channel yet, but they will be here once I do have more videos on here. For now, this is KairosTime ticking by, and we will see you in Free Fire.